Hello, and welcome back to the Freelance Unlocked podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why I see freelancers and experienced in the past myself struggle to close freelance clients. So maybe you're having discovery calls with people, or maybe you're emailing back and forth with potential clients. You're putting yourself out there, you're going to networking events, but you just can't get those clients to the next stage. Well, this podcast is going to help you figure out why those clients are not turning into real clients and real freelance projects. Welcome to the Freelance Unlocked podcast, hosted by me, Haley Davidson. I quit my corporate marketing job at 23 to freelance full-time. Since then, I've tripled my income, work just 20 hours per week or less, and get to work from anywhere in the world. But like many new freelancers, when I first got started, I was underpaid, overworked, and disrespected by clients. In this podcast, you're going to learn how I turned the tables and unlocked true freedom and started living my dream life through freelancing. And here's a spoiler alert. My success started from the inside out. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. So let's talk about it. Let's just dive right in. So the number one reason that people struggle to close freelance clients, it's simply that they're not following up. So I have worked with a lot of freelancers in my program foundations, and I've seen that this can be a real blocker when it comes to closing clients. So, maybe when you started freelancing, you did the initial push. So you got out of your comfort zone, you emailed a bunch of people, you sent a bunch of LinkedIn messages, and you even went to a bunch of events. You started that conversation with someone, maybe you even sent them a proposal that you felt really proud of, and then boom, radio silence. You feel like you've been ghosted. But the problem is, guys, that this is not dating. You're not getting ghosted by a Hinge match or whatever. You're working on building a business relationship. So that means that it's actually your job as the freelancer to follow up with that person and help, remind them that you exist in a way. So personally, myself, I hire freelancers a lot now for my agency. I have an SEO agency, and so we hire a lot of freelance writers. What I've seen is that a lot of people send that first email or put in the application and then they never follow up. Or we have a meeting and then, we have the meeting and I say, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you. And then I forget to get back to them because I'm a very busy business owner doing a lot of things. And then I just kind of forget or I move on. Or this has actually happened. I end up hiring the one person who followed up because they made it easy for me. And that's kind of the theme of this whole episode, is that when you're a freelancer, especially a new freelancer, you need to make it as easy as possible for someone to work with you. You cannot overcomplicate it. You can't expect the client to do all the work. You need to do your part. You need to take ownership over getting that project closed and basically, offering a service to this person, because that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to help them get results in their business, whether that's through writing or graphic design or something else. So you need to do the legwork to be able to provide that service, if that makes sense. So why don't people follow up, right? It seems easy enough. It actually seems like the easiest thing in the world just to send a dang email, right? But this is why I always say mindset is a huge part of you moving forward as a freelancer and of any freelancer success. Because what I've seen is when I tell someone to follow up, or again, I'm working with freelancers in my programs and we're talking about send the follow-up email, there's so much anxiety, right? Because a lot of times as a freelancer, it's different than getting a corporate job. I think it's easier to take things personally. So maybe you sent a proposal and you don't want to follow up because you're scared that your prices were too high. And so it feels like the end of the world if someone didn't want to work with you because your prices were too high and you feel very insecure about that. Or maybe you're just nervous that you're going to bother someone. Maybe you have been a people pleaser your whole life. And so you really just don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So you're just going to sit back until the work lands in your lap. But I need you to know that that strategy is not going to allow you to be successful. That mindset is not going to allow you to be successful, because again, you have to take ownership. If you're going to make freelancing work, you have to take responsibility and you have to just do the follow-up and learn to detach some of that from it. Because if you, let's say you're worried that you're just going to bother someone. Well, I'm sorry, you're never going to make any progress in this world if you're scared of bothering people, because when you start putting yourself out there as a business owner, as a freelance, you are going to rock the boat, and some people aren't going to work with you, and it's better to just hear that than it is to miss out on projects because you're refusing to follow up. So I think, another problem with follow up that people have is they just overthink the actual email language. And there's things you can do to help with that. Like, I recently posted on my Instagram an actual follow-up email that I sent that could give you some guidance. So make sure you're following me on Instagram for that. But the other thing is that you really just have to stop overthinking it and understand that freelancing and working with clients is just about practice. And you're going to get better as long as you practice, but you do have to kind of understand that sometimes it's going to be messy. Sometimes you might say the wrong thing. Sometimes, you might bother someone, like I said, but you have to understand that you will get better over time. And the more you practice, the more emails you send, the better you will get. But you have to push through that initial overthinking and just send the email. And remember that it can be very simple. I was literally just working through follow-up emails with someone, and I said, why are we writing this 4-paragraph follow-up email? They have your proposal. They know what you can offer them. So all you need to do is say, hey, bumping this up in your inbox. Do you have any questions? Thanks, Haley. Or, you say, hey, just circling back to see if you had any questions. Do you want to hop on a call to discuss it? Just let me know. Thanks, Haley. It can be as simple as that. And this is going to bring me to my next point, which is that I think a lot of people struggle to close freelance clients because they just aren't connecting with people on a human level. And the reason is because when you feel very anxious about something, or when you're very, worried about how you're coming across, or when you're overthinking, it's very hard to connect with people. Just like I said, I always compare it to dating, but if I go on a date with someone, a first date with someone, and I'm so anxious about how I'm going to be perceived, I'm putting so much weight on this single date, I'm not going to connect with that person, and my best self is not going to come across, and this is probably not going to turn into a relationship, because who wants to date someone that is so nervous that they can barely speak or is just not being their authentic self? So if you want to close freelance clients, you need to connect with them on a human level. You can't be a robot or, try to project something that you aren't because you think it's how you should be. And I see this all the time. A lot of my audience, a lot of you guys are freelance marketers and creatives. So we're kind of creative, quirky people. We have big personalities. But then when you go into the freelance world, sometimes that gets, put away in the closet, or you hide that part of yourself because you think it doesn't belong in this building relationships with clients phase. You think that you can't sell your services if you're your true self. You think that you need to project some corporate persona, and that can make it really difficult to close freelance clients because they just want to work with humans. People want to work with people that they like. This became really clear to me when I was actually in Toronto a couple weeks ago visiting my biggest client. And I love them, and I think they became my biggest client because we've just developed such a friendly, again, human relationship. So I was talking to their CEO, and we were talking just about how, it's hard to find good freelancers. They've worked with a lot of agencies where it just didn't turn out very well. So I'm just talking to him about this. And I said, hey, I always tell my audience that they need to just act like humans. They just need to build relationships with clients and be friendly and, not overthink things so much and really focus on nurturing a real relationship. And he agreed. He said, yeah, we just want to work with people that we like. And of course, your skills and your portfolio and your expertise matter. But what is really going to get you to close that deal and to stand out is your ability to connect with that client, to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel seen, and to basically put all your stuff, all your anxiety aside so that you can focus on them, so that you can make the client feel good and seen, right? I can't listen to my client and really hear what they need if I'm so anxious about how I'm coming across, or I'm so anxious about, again, bothering them or charging too high prices or whatever all these variables are. in a moment when you're meeting with a client, you can't control how they perceive you, but you can control your ability, your presence, your ability to listen to them, your kindness, your friendliness, your genuine interest in the work that they're doing and in their company. You can be genuinely interested in how you can serve them and best fit their needs. But it's really hard to do that when, again, you're being controlled by this kind of like anxiety and all these other factors, or when you are so caught up in how you should come across. Hopefully that's making sense, guys. So again, to sum up the second point, you really need to focus on developing relationships with clients, on building that trust with them, and, owning your story, owning who you are, owning the things you love. Maybe you think that, okay, this is a great example, actually. I was thinking that, my love of Legos. I love Legos, okay? It's my new hobby that I discovered last year. And I was thinking, like, that's kind of nerdy. It's kind of like a weird hobby, I guess. So just keep that to the side. Well, you would not believe, I got to my client's office in Toronto, and guess what was on everyone's desk? A Lego version of that person. So this company gives all their employees Lego when they start. So that's so crazy that I also love Legos. So then we start talking about it and all that, and it really furthered our relationship. But if I thought that doesn't belong, or that I shouldn't say that thing about myself, or I should only project a very professional persona, then it would be really hard for me to connect with them on that and deepen our relationship. So I also just want to encourage you on this point. I know it's easier said than done because a lot of us have what I like to call corporate programming. Before I quit my job in 2022, I worked at a very buttoned up, very corporate company in the financial industry. So I learned to keep my personal life hidden. I learned to project a certain type of persona that I thought could be successful in this company. And so it took a long time to kind of rewire that part of my brain and to feel safe, being myself in the freelance world. But I also want to say, that's a benefit of being a freelancer, and it's something to get excited about and to lean into and to remind yourself about that. Hey, freelancing is actually a safe place for me to be myself. And when I am myself, I attract the type of people that I want to work to. I attract the people who will, care about me and want to work with me because of my true self. So that's something to reflect on, something to journal on. And if you're in therapy, when I was in therapy, it really helped to talk about my corporate experience and figure out, what parts of myself I wanted to leave behind and what parts of myself I wanted to bring into my freelance brand, my freelance persona. So the third reason you might not be closing freelance clients is that you're overcomplicating things. And this is a big one. And it's very, very common among all freelancers, but especially freelancers who are brand new to freelancing. Maybe you're sending your clients emails that are, novels, basically. You're trying to pitch them huge, complex packages when all they really want is a single blog post. You're not listening, again, to what, like we talked about before, you're just not listening to what they really want. You're trying to pitch them a 2-year marketing plan instead of the one campaign that they want. They do really want your help with, but you're overcomplicating it. And so they're struggling to figure out the way that you guys can actually work together. And this is very common. Like I said, I hire freelancers. And so one time I put a post up and I said, hey, looking for freelance writers, email me if you want to work with my company. Here's some things that we're looking for. And oh my gosh, it was so interesting because some people sent 2 sentences, attached their resume and a link to their work, and what the next step was to work with them. Like, hey, let me know if you want to book a call and we can work together. Some people sent 5 paragraphs, 6 paragraphs, literally novels in that email explaining who they are, what they do, and all of this. And I understand the inclination because you want to show your best self to clients, right? But we're busy people. clients, I'm putting myself in that bucket for a second. People who are hiring freelancers because they are extremely busy and they are extremely overwhelmed. So if you come at them with a super long, complicated email or a super complicated proposal and you make it hard to work with you, you're not going to close that client, okay? So you need to make it easy, simple, like checking out on Amazon to work with you, especially when you're a new freelancer. If you want to really close more freelance clients, I just encourage you to find the shortest, most straightforward path to allowing people to work with you. For me, now when I work with new clients, my process is essentially I say, what's the shortest or quickest project that we can close? Maybe it's doing one blog post, or maybe it's doing what we call like an SEO strategy. And these are both small projects that we can close like that because they're a little bit lower price than signing on for a full retainer or for a huge SEO campaign. So we start with a small project. We start with, it's a more affordable price, so it's easier for them to say yes to pay right away, to get approval from their boss, whatever it is. Then I take it a step further and I take responsibility for sending them a contract and an invoice. There's nothing that I hate more than when a freelancer does not already have their contract, right? So you should never be waiting for your clients to send you a contract. If you want to close them, find one simple project you can work on together, send them the contract, and send them the invoice if you're doing upfront payment. You need to, again, make it very easy to work with you. This is the best way to close more clients. Now, I say this because the hardest yes is the first yes. So it's most difficult to get someone to say yes for the first time. But once they're already working with you, now you have the ability to build more trust with them, to show off your skills, to demonstrate that you are responsible, that you do great work, just like you say you can. And that's because when you're hiring a freelancer, we all know there are so many bad freelancers out there. So clients can be hesitant to hire someone on for a huge project. So give yourself an opportunity to show off a little, to do a smaller project with them, and then you can move into the more complex projects. Now, I'll also give the caveat that if you're a more established freelancer, then this doesn't always have to be the case, right? Sometimes you can start with a huge project. I just did this. I closed a huge project with a client that was basically an SEO strategy and then a series of articles. And we didn't have to do the mini project first. But that's because it was a company that was very used to hiring freelancers. It came to me via a referral. So there was already trust built. The other reason that we didn't have to start with a mini project is because, I've been doing my business for a couple years now. I have a reputation and I have case studies I can point to and say, here's the work that we're doing with this person. If you're new to freelancing and you don't necessarily have that proven track record, that reputation, and you're not getting your clients through like personal referrals, then it's going to be more challenging to close a big project right away. But again, if you start with a mini project, then you can build it up, close a second project with them, move them onto a retainer. I went with one client from a $1,500 blog post to a $10,000 project, but we had to do the first blog post first to build trust and to establish a relationship. The fourth reason that you're probably struggling to find clients is, I hate to say this, guys, and some people might get mad at me, but I guarantee that one of the reasons you could be not closing clients is that you're giving off desperate energy, okay? So I see this more often than I'd like, and people that reach out to me and want to freelance, they come at me. Sometimes this is with a very long email that gives off desperate energy, or it's just in the way that they phrase certain things. And I just don't like that. Again, my perspective as someone that hires freelancers, because now all of a sudden, if you're coming to someone and they can tell that you're very desperate, whether that's for money, for clients, for opportunity, you're putting the person that's hiring you in an uncomfortable position. You're putting a lot of pressure on them. And nothing good, in my opinion, really ever comes from pressure. Pressure does not create good, beneficial relationships for both parties. Pressure makes this person uncomfortable. Pressure creates resentment between two individuals. So when you're coming at someone with desperate energy, it's just not a good look, and it's not going to make people want to hire you. If you are truly desperate right now for money or for clients, I understand. I've been there. I've been in positions where I've had my back up against the wall and really needed to close that project. But I promise you that in my years of freelancing, I have never closed a client when I was coming into our meeting or coming into an email or sending a proposal from a desperate place. When I was really struggling, what I would do is, number one, fix my mindset. So that means that you need to detach from the outcome, understand that yes, you might really need money right now, but you need to approach this project as if you don't need it. My favorite mantra is, I want you, but I don't need you. Now that might feel impossible if you actually do need money right now. So the next thing I tell you to do is go find another way to make money. And that might not be popular advice. You might not like that, but it's the harsh truth sometimes. If you're in a position where you're freelancing full time and you don't have a 9-to-5 job right now. So if that's you, and again, that was me a couple years ago, what I did is I would go get babysitting jobs. I would go do odd jobs to make some extra money. I would sell my clothes at like Plato's Closet to get $100 and go buy groceries. There's no shame in doing that. What you don't need to do is just think that the world owes you money as a freelancer. You should not feel entitled to getting work from someone, even if they're a friend. When you act entitled or you act desperate, you are basically cutting off the energy of money. That might be a little bit too spiritual for you guys. I really believe in the energy of money, the energy of abundance. And if we think about, money coming to you as a form of energy, the best way to cut that energy off or to repel money is to act desperate or entitled to it. So find ways to detach from the outcome when you're speaking to clients. Again, whether that's through finding other ways to make money or by really working on your mindset and learning to detach from the outcome. So one of the ways that you can do that is I actually have a program called the Freelance Mindset Reset. It's a 5-day audio program where we spend 5 days going through each of these kind of mindset blocks that I'm talking about in this episode. Really, we talk about how to detach from the outcome. We talk about how to work with negative thoughts, how to crush those negative thoughts so that you can actually start taking action. So that is going to be linked in these show notes, but you can also sign up at freelanceunlocked.co/mindset-reset. And I'd really encourage you to do that free audio program if you're struggling with your mindset here, because mindset plays a huge part in your ability to close clients. Okay, so the last reason that you might not be closing clients is that your pricing is off. And I think this is an interesting one because a lot of people assume that the reason they're not closing clients is that they're charging too much. And so then they lower their prices, but what they realize is they're still not closing clients. And even if they do close a client, well, now they're miserable because they lowered their prices so much that they're barely making enough to live, and they're overworked and they're busy and they're burnt out. And that's the cycle that a lot of freelancers get stuck in. But I want you to know that in my over 2 years of freelancing, and in my conversation with literally dozens, almost 100 freelancers in the past year, I have seen that pricing is very, very rarely the reason that you're not closing clients. Usually it's because you're not following up, because you're giving off desperate energy, because you're not building real relationships with people, or because you're overcomplicating things and just making it hard for people to work with you. So keep that in mind as we talk about pricing now. Money and pricing is relative. So it's really hard to say that your pricing is objectively too high, because what is expensive for a small business owner or a solopreneur is very cheap to a multi-million-dollar or $1 billion company. So let's make sure we're all clear on that pricing is relative, so it's never objectively going to be too high. Now, you might be hearing from clients or hearing from people or feeling like your pricing is too high for one of two reasons, or for both of these reasons. Number one, you're putting your prices out there, but you're not properly positioning your value or talking about yourself and your services in a way that makes your pricing make sense. So you're just putting your price out there and expecting people to buy because, I don't know, maybe you think like it's obvious why you're so great, or you think people understand why branding costs this much, or you think everyone knows that websites cost this much, but you're not getting any buyers, you're not closing clients because you're not actually like doing the work to explain your prices. You're not having conversations about the value you provide. You don't know how to pitch yourself. And so people are not going to pay those prices. So that's a skill that you have to develop over time. You have to learn how to pitch yourself. You have to learn how to, in a way, position your value. You have to, over time, develop a portfolio of work. So when you're a new freelancer, you can't charge as much as someone that has experience 10 years freelancing, obviously, because you have less of a track record. So, of course, there are situations in which you might be, quote unquote, charging too much, but that's not because your prices are objectively too high. It's because you haven't developed the skills needed to properly position those prices to pitch yourself. And that's something that, takes time to develop, like I said, and it's something that we do cover in depth in my program Foundations. We talk about how to pitch your value and position your value in discovery calls. We talk about how to create proposals that actually convert. So that's also linked in the show notes if you're interested in that. And maybe I'll do another episode on it for you guys soon. The other reason that your prices might be, again, quote unquote, too high or coming across as too high is because you might simply be talking to the wrong people. So I asked one of my students in my program the other day, she said she was worried that her prices are too high. And I said, what does that mean about you if someone says your prices are too high? Why does that make you so anxious? It's very common that we get anxious and worried that someone will say our prices are too high. It's because we take it personally. We think it's a reflection of our value. And that's what she said. But then she said, but I also know it might just mean that I'm talking to the wrong person. I need to go after a different type of client. And I said, yes, that's the correct perspective. Because if your prices are too high, then you need to go find someone that can pay those prices. You need to find the alignment between the prices that you want to charge, the money you want to earn, and the types of clients that you can serve and that value the type of work you do. And the truth of this is that you can do market research, you can do competitive analysis, but the only way you're really going to find who will pay your prices and who's the right fit for your services is by going out there and taking action and pitching a ton of people and getting a lot of rejections. And that's the hard truth, some tough love today, but you're going to have to get rejected probably 50 times before you find the person who says yes, because it takes time to find product market fit. And product market fit is something that they talk a lot about in the tech world. I work with tech startups primarily, so I hear it all the time. But when a tech company is rolling out a new product, they have to find the right market. And how they do that is by pitching the product to a bunch of different types of people, a bunch of different types of customers. And that's what you need to do. So you need to first think about, what kind of money do I want to earn as a freelancer? Then you think about, what kind of work do I want to do? So you want to do SEO strategy, you want to do branding. And then we think about, who would be interested in that work and willing to pay these prices? Who has the budget and who values the work that I do? So on my own personal journey last year, I had a month where I did, or it was like 2 months where I did probably 50 different coffee chats or discovery calls with different types of clients. I met with early stage startups. I met with Series D startups. I met with mid-sized businesses. I met with small business owners. I met with people who have coaching businesses. And it was tough, guys, because I got a lot of rejection. And there was a point where I thought, do people just not value the work that I do? Am I just never going to be able to charge the prices that I really want to charge? Am I just screwed? Because for me, it was really important to earn the money I want to earn as a freelancer. So through this process, though, I eventually discovered the perfect ideal client for my services. And like that, within the span of another month, I had closed someone who fit that profile. I was earning more than what I even originally said I wanted to earn, doing more work that was aligned with my passion. And now that's how I scaled what I call my agency today, where we're scaling up and we're bringing on more clients, is because I identified who is interested in these services, who we can serve, what kind of results we can drive, and who values the work that we're doing at the prices that we want to charge. So that, is the truth of the matter. You have to give yourself some time to find the right client. Just meet with a ton of people. I really encourage you to go to in-person networking events and then to have one-on-one conversations with the people you meet there, to reach out to people on LinkedIn and ask them to do coffee chats with you. And just put yourself out there and understand that it might take some time, but every time you take a step forward, you're getting closer to discovering, what you need to be doing as a freelancer, who is going to be the right client for you. You just need to have a little bit of faith that as long as you have that vision in mind of what you want to do, what you want to earn, all of that, and you don't compromise by constantly lowering your prices, then you are going to find the product market fit. You're going to find the person who actually really needs you and is dying to pay the prices that you want to charge. So if that feels really scary and really hard, again, I encourage you the mindset reset for your mindset to learn about how to detach from the outcome, to learn about how to manage negative thoughts. That's a free program. And then if you want help actually putting some of this stuff into practice, you want a real toolkit to help you get started on your freelance journey, to help you actually close these clients, send your proposals, send contracts. We have templates for all of it. That's going to be in my foundations program, and it's all going to be linked here in the show notes. So thank you guys for listening today. I hope this helped you get clear on why you might not be closing clients yet. And as always, please let me know what you thought about this episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Haley G. Davidson and send me a DM. Please make sure you follow the show, leave a review. That really helps us out. And I just love seeing the reviews. You guys are so kind. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next episode and have a great rest of your week. Bye.